Well, hello there, YouTube. It's Ro here. Thank you for visiting You Grow Ro. If this is your first time, I hope you'll consider subscribing at the end of this video. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate you. Today, I'm going to be going over all of the seeds I got in January with my January seed swaps. And I'll show you what all those were in just a moment. All right, you guys, these seeds came in from all over the place, and I created a little map for us to follow their tracking, so to speak. So first we start out with my swap from Weed, California. From there, I received the large barred board. Tell me that this tomato isn't the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. The fruits can be up to 12 ounces. Takes 65 to 75 days for maturity after transplant, that is. And they say it's a good choice for marginal tomato climates, which means you have a cooler summer. And they describe the flavor as sweet but tangy. Next up, we're coming all the way from Aqua, Tennessee. Not terribly far from me. This tomato is called Fun. And isn't it fun? It's an heirloom, it's indeterminate, it's unusual, it's red, and it has a cigar shape. Personally, it reminds me of balloon animals when they start to make balloon animals. And they say the plants have good resistance to diseases. Also, from Aqua, Tennessee, I got the gypsy tomato. I've heard of this, but I never had it. It's named for the gypsies who live in Russia. It's rich tasting with an almost smoky flavor. Yum. They say it's blemish free with very little cracking, even with heavy rains for days. Sounds great to me. I had an issue with that last year. It's a Russian heirloom developed during the Soviet era, introduced into the U.S. in the year 2000. Matures in 60 days from transplant. From Aqua, we move on to Frankfurt, Indiana. From there, I got the Everglades tomato. This is the first I've ever heard of this. It is an heirloom, and did you know that there is a perennial tomato out there? This is one of them, and it's perennial to zones 9 and up. It's a wild tomato found in the Florida Everglades, and they said the flavor is intense. So I'm looking forward to giving this a try. Won't be perennial here, but I still want to give it a go. Prairie Fire. Now, recently, some of you acquired these seeds, as you say, messing around with me. You weren't the only ones. I had to get my hand on these too. They are a hybrid, and they are semi-determinate, 75 days to maturity after transplant, of course, and it's known for its low acidity and high sugar content. They describe it as insanely sweet. Oh my. Moving on, one that I'm growing this year and super excited about is the Ananas Noir. It's also known as the black pineapple. Weighs about 1.5 pounds, well, up to. Superb flavor that is both sweet and smoky with a hit of citrus. Heavy yields, matures in 80 to 90 days after transplant. Look at that beauty. Oh my goodness. I've been knowing about this tomato for years and hadn't gotten around to it until this year. Very excited for this one. Next up is the cream sausage. 80 to 90 days, or 80 days to transplant, from transplant before it matures. It is a determinate. It's bred by some folks from the Seed Savers Exchange. It says it has a meaty flesh with mild flavor, very productive, and excellent for containers. I didn't request this one. I think this one came as a bonus in a swap that I had done with someone, but now I have them. That happens a lot in these swaps where people throw in extra seeds, and I'm always surprised at what I get. Next up is the blackberry. I'd never heard of this one. It's an old Kentucky heirloom, 85 days to maturity, large beefsteak style, up to 1 pound. The texture is firm and very meaty, and the tomato is crack resistant. Next, we're moving on to a swap I got from Newman, Georgia. First up was the Gigante del Rey. It's an indeterminate Italian heirloom from Piedmont. Very big beefsteak. Good, intense flavor of old-fashioned tomatoes. It looks like an old-fashioned tomato, doesn't it? It just looks like it tastes so good. Ooh, I can't wait to grow that one. It's going to be time before I get around to it, but I'm looking forward to growing that one. Next up is the Golden Jubilee. It's indeterminate, 78 days to maturity, heavy yields, delicate and mild, lightly sweet taste. And it was an All-Americans Selections winner. This was another one that I didn't choose, but it came in a bundle that I got, and all of the tomatoes begin with the letter G. So obviously this person is working down their list alphabetically. Next up was the Gold Medal. I already had seeds for this. It's indeterminate, 75 to 90 days, juicy, sweet, and tangy, yet mild, thin, firm skin. It's a beauty. Goldman's Italian American. Indeterminate, 80 days to maturity, prolific, wow, very hardy, never showed any signs of disease, and it keeps producing until fall, which I appreciate. Now this is the tomato that I did this swap for. It's called Girl's Weird Thing. It's an indeterminate, 70 to 80 days maturity, excellent flavor, very well balanced, meaty, bicolor beefsteak. Tomatoes that range from 12 to 16 ounces and high production. I love the name. I love the look. People raved about the flavor, so I'm really looking forward to doing this one. Then there's the Gold Dust, a determinate that takes 60 to 65 days to mature after transplant. Sweet and juicy fruits, a little bit thicker skin, crack resistant, and does well in cooler weather. Here we go with some seeds coming all the way from Vancouver, Washington. Aunt Nona's parsley. You guys know I love parsley. It's my favorite herb ever, culinary-wise. A flat leaf parsley with superior taste, long producing, cold hardy, easy to grow. Then we have the Namu berry. It's a ground cherry. The seeds were curated by the Namu farm located in California, and it has a nice pineapple flavor. Next up is the Rosa di Benevento tomato. It's one of those long keepers, which means it'll be in storage for 2 to 6 months or even more. It's compact and sweet and very productive. Next up is another long keeper. This one's called the Cantore. It's indeterminate and it's productive, split resistant, perfect for Northwest gardeners, and slightly larger than a cherry tomato. I also got the Antico Ravenna. I picked this one because of the name Ravenna. There's a city named Ravenna not 20 minutes from me, and it felt like I had to have it. It's an indeterminate, another long keeper that stores for 2 to 6 months or more, from the city of Ravenna in northern Italy. Crack and split resistant, very meaty, intense, deep flavor. All right, moving on. This next swap came from Nolanville, Tennessee. I got the Red Magician, which is a Ukrainian variety with heavy yields, and another Ukrainian variety called the Red Mustafa. I could find no information on that one, unfortunately. The next swap came from Dayton, Oregon. And it was the Cherokee Purple, which I already have. I think we've all heard of this one. It's an heirloom, independent, 60 to 90 days to maturity after transplant, beefsteak style, known for its intense depth of flavor. Then there's the Pineapple Tomato, another popular one, an heirloom, indeterminate, very large, up to 2 pounds each. The flavor is very sweet and fruity, good yields, 80 days to maturity after transplant. And finally, in that swap, I got the Black Brandywine, which is an heirloom, extra large in size, ooh, like that, full of deep, earthy, and sweet flavor, 80 to 90 days maturity after transplant. Moving on, my next swap came from South Hill, Washington. In that swap, I got the Brad's Atomic Grape. I've been wanting that tomato forever. I never got around to ordering it. As many orders as I put into Baker Creek, you would think that would have made it into my basket. No, it never did. At anyway, it's an heirloom, 75 days to maturity after transplant, crack resistant, and highly productive. My next swap is coming all the way from Hollywood, Maryland. I got the Rose Quartz Multiflora. Multiflora. I didn't request this one. They just included it as a bonus. It's indeterminate, 75 days to maturity, high productivity, sweet and mild flavor. I looked it up. This is a gorgeous little tomato. Oh, and I love those multifloras. The last one I grew was the Berry's Crazy Cherry, which was just okay, but it was very fun having, you know, all those tomatoes producing like wild. That after I grew that tomato once, it popped up in my yard every year ever since. It probably popped up this year and last year when I didn't even live there. Moving on, I got the Storm and Norman Multiflora. It's an indeterminate, 70 days to maturity, high productivity, and has well-balanced sweet flavor. Again, this is another one like the Berry's Crazy Cherry. Super excited for both of those. And then lastly, in that swap, I got the Karma Apricot, 70 days to maturity. Fruity, very sweet and crunchy. And it's a cross between Captain Lucky and Ambrosia. I don't own either one of those tomatoes. And I've already sent some of these tomatoes out to a special someone. Moving on, my next swap came from Lids, Pennsylvania. I got the Window Box Micro. It's 50 to 60 days to maturity. 8 to 10 inch plants produce abundantly and early. You can get a second crop when the plants are pruned and fertilized, and they're described as juicy and sweet. All of these micros will be great for my indoor hydroponic units. Next up is the Boca Micro, 50 to 60 days to maturity, compact, small plants, high yielding, and it ripens early. Followed by the Red Tomato Micro. I could find zero information on that tomato. I looked up just Table Micro Dwarf. That brought up everything that had table in the name. Then I did Red Tomato, Red Table. That didn't work either, so I don't have any information on that one. Moving on is the Candyberry Micro. It's 60 days to maturity, very compact plant. Fruits come in compact clusters resembling berries. And I got the Little Bing Micro. I love that little name. What's the name of that channel? Hollis and Nancy something or other. I think their dog's name is Bing. Is it Bing or Ling? I want to say it's Bing. Anyway, Little Bing Micro, 60 to 65 days to maturity. Compact plants at less than 24 inches tall. High yielding and delicious flavor. And finally, I got the Bullfinch Micro, 90 to 97 days after germination. Low growing, compact, 16 to 18 inch tall. Bred in Russia in 2008, and the fruits are sweet and juicy but not watery. All right, friends, that was a lot, and that does it for me in January. I may do another video like this for my February swaps. In February, I have been swapping some peppers as well, so there's quite a bit to see already. Not as many as I had here, but still another big swap haul. So if you'd like to see that, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see what I can do to accommodate you guys. All right, I'll talk to you guys in another video on another day. Until then, happy growing.